Browns tried to run a cover-up, but it just blew up in their faces. Mary Kay Cabot is calling out Kevin Stefanski on live TV, accusing the Browns of pushing a fake injury narrative to keep Shedeur Sanders off the field. And now the entire fan base is screaming one question: what are the Browns hiding?
Sanders' status against the New England Patriots. We're going to talk about what she stated in this video, so let's get to it. So once again, as I said before, we have breaking news. The Cleveland Browns will face off against the New England Patriots this upcoming Sunday, and it looks like Shedeur Sanders' status is very questionable when it comes to his back injury. Per Mary Kay, Shedeur Sanders has a back injury, and he is very questionable in regards to this football game being QB2. I'm going to show you guys what she stated on the next slide.
I think they're very, very happy with what Shedeur has been able to do on the football field over the past month or so, since we last saw him play in that Rams game in the preseason finale. I think he's worked really, really hard, and he has had a great attitude inside the building. They've been very impressed with what they've seen and heard from him, and he's getting one step closer to his opportunity.
Yeah, Ash, I mean, the Browns have been saying over and over again that he's doing what he needs to do. He's progressing, so this is just an...
Mary Kay just dropped a bomb that has the entire NFL world and Browns fans losing their minds. Shedeur Sanders, questionable with a back injury? The same dude who survived getting demolished behind Colorado's offensive line for 3 years without missing a single snap is now mysteriously hurt? And here's the kicker. Bailey Zapp, a former Patriots backup, gets elevated to QB2 just days before they play New England. Coincidence? I don't think so. This whole situation screams setup. And Mary Kay's breaking report is pulling back the curtain on what Kevin Stefanski and the Browns front office are really doing to Shedeur. Something's rotten in Cleveland, and we're about to expose exactly what's going on behind closed doors.
It says, post on my earlier breaking news that Shedeur Sanders has been added to the Browns injury report as questionable with a back injury tightening up on him overnight. Bailey Zappi has been elevated and will be QB2 if Shedeur Sanders can't go. It is very, very...
about this, like, things were trending this way. I mean, the way coordinator Tommy Rees talked about Shedeur on Thursday and everything, it just seemed like they were headed this way. And I mean, to a certain extent, you think about, though, if rookie quarterback development is important to them and they think he's ready to have this added to his plate, I guess you kind of have to go with the rookie development part of it right now.
Now, we heard from Myles Garrett today, and in a week where the Browns made 2 trades, of course, trading away Joe Flacco and then trading Greg Newsome for Tyson Campbell, it was interesting to hear Myles Garrett talk about this team and its commitment to winning. And Mary Kay, he believes that this team, despite those trades, is still committed to winning football games.
Yeah, especially because the Greg trade was a player-for-player trade, and the way that it was explained to the...
So look, before we dive deep into this mess, let me set the scene for you. The Browns are sitting at 2-5, their season is basically circling the drain, and fans have been screaming for weeks to see what Shedeur Sanders can do. This is the kid who was projected top 3 in every mock draft for 2 years straight.
It's
talking about Stefanski.
Yeah, it's a powerful thing, because if you give people real comments and real thoughts, people will say, okay, I can understand where you're coming with that. You can also do certain things to get guys motivated and keep going. Like if it's Myles Garrett and Myles Garrett says those comments and they come out the next week and you say, listen, I mean, I echo what Myles Garrett is saying. I'm saying the same thing. Yeah. It's every other week. It's the same week we doing it. And trust me, we understand that. And if you admit that, you're like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying there, bro. But this is a bigger thing. We've already been through this. See, the problem with the Browns is, and Browns fans is, we always understand but can't figure and wrap our head around what's going on. Now let's go, this is Groundhog's Day. We've been here. For people who feel there is no collateral damage for losing, you're crazy. So in February 2022, Hugh Jackson claimed on record that the Browns front office paid him a bonus to lose games. While Haslam publicly denied this, calling the claim a falsehood and stating that Jackson never took responsibility for the team's poor performance under his tenure. In a series of tweets, Jackson suggested the Browns intentionally incentivized losing during the early years of his coaching tenure. And he goes on to say, even after they went 1-31, they gave him an extension.
The same quarterback who lit up defenses in the Big 12, won Offensive Player of the Year, and had NFL scouts drooling over his arm talent and poise under pressure. But somehow, he falls all the way to the 5th round, gets drafted by Cleveland, and then, what happens? Absolutely nothing. He's been stuck as QB3 for most of the season, while Joe Flacco was starting games like it's 2015. Then, Flacco gets shipped to Cincinnati, which, by itself is wild because why would you trade away your veteran? Back up right before you might need him? But okay, fine. So Shedeur finally gets bumped up to QB2 behind Dillon Gabriel, who's been playing like a game manager at best. Gabriel put up okay numbers against Miami last week, 59.8% completion, 546 yards, 3 touchdowns through 5 games. That's not exactly lighting the world on fire, but Stefanski acts like the kid just won MVP. Now, here's where things get absolutely sketchy. According to Mary Kay Cabot, who's basically the most connected Browns insider in the game, Shedeur wasn't on the injury report all week. Not Wednesday, not Thursday, not Friday. The dude practiced, did his drills, and everything was cool. Then suddenly, Saturday morning rolls around and boom, his back tightens up overnight. Just like that, out of nowhere. Mary Kay reported that Shedeur's back got stiff Saturday morning. He told the team about it, and within hours, they're elevating Bailey Zapp from the practice squad. Now let me ask you something. Doesn't that timing seem a little too convenient? We're 10 days away from the trade deadline. 10 days. And suddenly, the backup quarterback who everyone wants to see gets a mysterious injury that pops up literally overnight? Let me break down why this is so suspicious. Shedeur hasn't been getting first-team reps. Stefanski himself admitted earlier this week that Dillon Gabriel gets all the starting reps in practice because you want to make sure he gets a lot of the reps. So Shedeur's been throwing against air, working with second stringers, basically doing light work. He's not taking hits. He's not getting crushed by defensive linemen. He's throwing footballs to practice squad receivers. So how does his back suddenly tighten up? This is the same quarterback who took some of the most brutal beatings in college football. At Colorado, Shedeur played behind one of the worst offensive lines in the country. He got sacked 33 times as a freshman, got hit constantly. And you know what? He never missed a game. Not one. He played through everything because that's what leaders do. Now you're telling me that throwing passes in a controlled practice environment causes his back to seize up? Come on, man. That doesn't pass the smell test. And here's the thing that really makes you wonder. This is Shedeur's 3rd injury setback this season. 3rd, a hamstring earlier, some other minor thing, and now this mysterious back issue. For a guy who barely plays, he sure seems to be hurt a lot. It's almost like every time there's momentum building for him to potentially get on the field, something conveniently happens to keep him sidelined. Let's talk about what Mary Kay actually said in her report, because she's not holding back here. She confirmed the injury is legitimate. Okay, fine. But then she also dropped this nugget. The Browns have no plans to trade Shedeur despite him not getting any first-team reps and potentially not seeing the field for a while. Now, why would she feel the need to clarify that if there wasn't smoke around trade rumors? The internet went absolutely crazy when this news broke. One fan tweeted, "I call BS. He's getting traded, and they're not messing up that trade value. Free Shedeur. NYC wants him." Another said, "This tells me Kevin Stefanski fully expects Dillon Gabriel to play like trash against the Pats and doesn't want to field questions as to why he didn't turn to Shedeur in a blowout loss, or a trade for Shedeur is imminent." And honestly, both of those takes make a lot of sense when you step back and look at the bigger picture. Think about it from Stefanski's perspective. He's coaching for his job right now. The Browns are 2-5, which means they're basically cooked for playoff contention. If Gabriel plays badly against New England, and they lose, fans and media are going to be screaming, "Why didn't you put in Shedeur?" That's a legitimate question that Stefanski doesn't want to answer. But if Shedeur's conveniently hurt, problem solved. No controversy, no tough questions, just, "Oh well, our backup was injured, nothing we could do." Now, let's get into the Bailey Zappi situation, because that's a whole other layer to this onion. Zappi was a fourth-round pick by the Patriots back in 2022. Bill Belichick drafted him to be a potential successor to Tom Brady. Obviously, that didn't work out, but Zappi got some playing time in New England. He went 4-5 as a starter with the Pats before bouncing around. Now he's on Cleveland's practice squad. And suddenly, he's being elevated for a game against his former team. Here's the NFL rule that makes this even messier. When you elevate a quarterback from the practice squad, they have to be active on game day. They can't be the emergency third QB, so if Shedeur is listed as questionable and Zappi gets elevated, that means Zappi is officially QB2 regardless of what happens. Even if Shedeur wakes up Sunday feeling fine, he might get bumped down to emergency QB3 status anyway. Do you see how calculated this whole thing is? The Browns basically found a loophole to keep Shedeur off the field without having to bench him officially. They can say, "Oh, he's hurt, so we had no choice but to go with Zappi." Meanwhile, Shedeur sits on the sideline in street clothes while his career momentum completely stalls out. And here's what really grinds my gears about this whole situation. Shedeur hasn't done anything wrong. He's been a professional. He's been patient. He hasn't complained publicly about not getting reps. He hasn't demanded a trade. He's done everything the organization asked him to do. And how are they repaying him? By potentially sabotaging his development with these convenient injuries. Mary Kay also mentioned something important in her reporting. If Gabriel continues being just a game manager and not a game changer, the Browns might be tempted to turn to Shedeur sooner than they want to. The passing game does need to improve, or they'll undoubtedly find themselves tempted to turn to Sanders sooner than perhaps they want to, she said. Did you catch that? Sooner than they want to. That tells you everything you need to know. The Browns don't actually want to play Shedeur right now, even if it might be the best thing for the team. Why wouldn't they want to play him? There's a few theories floating around. One is that they're protecting him for a potential trade. If Shedeur gets on the field and struggles, which is possible given that he's a rookie with no starting experience, his trade value tanks. But if they keep him wrapped in bubble wrap, never let him play, and maintain this mystique around his potential, they can still get decent value for him at the deadline or in the off-season. Another theory is that Stefanski genuinely doesn't believe in him. Maybe the coaches don't think Shedeur's ready. Maybe they think Gabriel gives them a better chance to win games this year. But here's the problem with that logic. They're 2-5. You're not winning anything this season. This is supposed to be the time when you evaluate your young talent and see what you have for the future. Instead, they're running out a rookie who's been mediocre at best while their higher pedigreed prospect sits on the bench with a mysterious sore back. Cleveland radio host Tony Grossi even suggested the Browns might be looking to move on from Shedeur entirely. He said they're covered even if things don't work out with Gabriel because they have Zappi, and eventually Deshaun Watson coming back from injury. They're covered if that opportunity arose, because first, you got Zappi, who could serve as an emergency number, Grossi said. 2 until Deshaun Watson gets back. So let me get this straight. The Browns spent a draft pick on Shedeur, watched him fall from potential top 3 selection to the 5th round, presumably because they thought they were getting value. And now they might just give up on him after half a season where he hasn't even played? That's either incompetence or there's something else going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. Here's what kills me about this whole thing. Shedeur deserves better. This kid has the pedigree, the talent, the work ethic, and the leadership qualities that every team says they want in a franchise quarterback. He comes from NFL royalty. His dad is Shedeur Sanders, a Hall of Famer who knows what it takes to succeed at the highest level. Shedeur grew up in the game. He understands pressure. He's been coached his entire life by one of the greatest athletes ever. At Colorado, he showed he could handle chaos. That offensive line was a disaster, and Shedeur still put up massive numbers. He threw for over 3,000 yards multiple seasons. He led comeback after comeback. He showed poise in the pocket that most rookies don't have. NFL scouts raved about his accuracy, his decision-making, and his ability to read defenses. So, what happened? Why did he fall so far in the draft? And why is Cleveland treating him like he's damaged goods? Some people think it's because of his dad. Dion is a polarizing figure. He's loud. He's flashy. He's unapologetically confident. Maybe NFL teams were scared of the media circus that comes with drafting a Sanders. Maybe they thought Dion would be calling plays from the sideline or interfering with coaching decisions. If that's true, then those teams were idiots, because Dion has literally said he wants Shedeur to make his own path and prove he belongs on his own merits. But let's bring this back to the immediate situation. Sunday's game against the Patriots is huge, for multiple reasons. New England is 5-2, playing solid football, and this is a game Cleveland desperately needs if they want to salvage anything from this season. Gabriel is going to start, that's confirmed. But what happens if he struggles? What happens if they're down 21-3 at halftime and the offense looks lifeless? Normally, that's when you'd turn to your backup. That's when you'd give the young guy a shot to spark something. But if Shedeur's conveniently inactive with a back injury, Stefanski doesn't have to make that decision. He can just ride or die with Gabriel. And if they lose, he'll point to the injury report and say his hands were tied. That's the propaganda part of all this. The Browns are controlling the narrative. They're shaping public perception so that when Shedeur doesn't play, nobody can blame coaching decisions. It's all about the injury. It's all about bad luck and unfortunate timing. Except it's not. It's calculated. It's strategic. And Mary Kay calling it out in her reporting, even while confirming the injury is legitimate, shows that people inside the organization know exactly what's happening. Here's the other angle that nobody's really talking about. What does this do to Shedeur's confidence and development? You're a young quarterback trying to prove yourself, and every time there's an opportunity for you to step up, something prevents it from happening. That's got to mess with your head. That's got to make you wonder if the organization actually believes in you, or if they're just stringing you along until they can flip you for draft capital. And let's be real. If the Browns do trade Shedeur before the deadline, they're going to look absolutely foolish. You draft a guy in the 5th round who was projected way higher, you don't give him any real opportunities to develop, and then you ship him out after half a season? What kind of evaluation process is that? How do you possibly know what you have if you never let him play meaningful snaps? This whole situation reminds me of what happened with other talented quarterbacks who got buried on depth charts early in their careers. We've seen guys sit for years, get written off as busts, then go to another team and ball out. The difference is those guys usually got a chance to actually play at some point. Shedeur hasn't even gotten that. He's been stuck in purgatory since the day he arrived in Cleveland. Mary Kay also noted that the Browns don't have a set schedule for when Shedeur will play. They're letting it unfold naturally, depending on Gabriel's performance and Shedeur's development. But how is he supposed to develop if he's not getting first-team reps? How is he supposed to show he's ready if they won't put him in position to succeed? It's a catch-22 that feels designed to fail. The fact that this back injury happened on Saturday, literally the day before the game, makes it impossible not to be skeptical. If Shedeur had been listed on Wednesday's injury report, okay, maybe he tweaked something in practice. But Saturday morning, after a full week of practice where everything was fine, that's the kind of timing that makes you question everything. And look, I want to be fair here. Maybe the injury is completely legitimate. Maybe Shedeur really did wake up with back tightness, and it has nothing to do with the game plan or trade rumors or anything else. Maybe I'm connecting dots that aren't actually connected. But given everything else that's happened this season, the way Shedeur's been handled, the lack of opportunities, the constant injury designations, can you blame fans for being suspicious? What makes this even more frustrating is that Shedeur could genuinely help this team right now. The Browns' offense has been painfully mediocre all season. They need a spark. They need someone who can make plays and energize the fan base. Gabriel has been fine, but fine isn't going to turn this season around. Meanwhile, you've got a quarterback with all the tools sitting on the bench, and the organization keeps finding reasons not to play him. If I'm a Browns fan, I'm furious right now. You've watched this team cycle through quarterbacks for decades. You've seen every retread veteran, every draft bust, every failed experiment. And finally, you draft a kid with legitimate superstar potential. And this is how they handle him? It's maddening. The other piece of this that nobody wants to say out loud, but everyone's thinking, Deshaun Watson is still on this roster. He's injured right now, but he's going to come back eventually. When he does, where does that leave Shedeur? Watson's contract is fully guaranteed. The Browns can't cut him without taking a massive financial hit. So even if Watson plays terribly when he returns, they're probably going to keep trotting him out there because they're paying him anyway. That means Shedeur's window to prove himself is incredibly small. If Watson comes back in a few weeks and reclaims the starting job, Shedeur could be stuck as QB3 again. And if that happens, his development completely stalls out. He becomes trade bait or a clipboard holder, and all that potential just evaporates. So where does this leave us? Tomorrow's game is going to tell us a lot. If Shedeur is inactive and Zappe backs up Gabriel, we'll know the Browns prioritized optics over opportunity. If Shedeur somehow suits up and plays, even if it's just as the emergency QB, that might signal the injury wasn't as serious as reported. But based on everything Mary Kay said, it sounds like Shedeur is going to be out. The Browns elevated Zappe. They're calling it a precautionary move, and they've already started managing expectations. That's not the language you use if you expect your backup quarterback to be available. What bothers me most about this entire saga is the lack of transparency. The Browns keep saying they're evaluating Shedeur, they're developing him, they believe in him, but their actions tell a completely different story. If you truly believed in a young quarterback, you'd give him first-team reps in practice. You'd design packages specifically for his skill set. You'd create opportunities for him to succeed in low-pressure situations. Instead, Shedeur's been frozen out. He watches from the sideline while Gabriel gets all the work. He doesn't even get garbage time reps when games are out of hand. And now, when there's finally a chance for him to dress as QB2 and potentially see the field if Gabriel struggles, he mysteriously gets hurt overnight. I'm not saying Kevin Stefanski is lying. I'm not saying the Browns are making up injuries. But I am saying the timing is incredibly suspicious. And the pattern of behavior throughout this season suggests there's more to this story than we're being told. Mary Kay's reporting confirms that people inside the organization are questioning what's happening too. She wouldn't have mentioned trade rumors and lack of plans if those conversations weren't happening behind closed doors. Here's my prediction. Shedeur will be inactive Sunday. Gabriel will start and probably play the entire game unless they get blown out. Zappi will dress as QB2 and never see the field. The Browns will lose a close game, and Stefanski will say they need to evaluate the tape and see where they can improve. Nobody will ask about Shedeur because he was injured, so there's nothing to question. And if you don't believe in him, if you think Gabriel is the future and Shedeur was a mistake, then be honest about it. Trade him to a team that will actually use him. Let him go somewhere that needs a quarterback and will give him a real shot. Don't waste his rookie contract sitting him on the bench while you figure out your mess at the position. Shedeur Sanders deserves better than this. He deserves a fair opportunity to prove what he can do at the NFL level. He deserves coaches who believe in him and a front office that's willing to invest in his development. And right now, Cleveland isn't giving him any of those things. Let's talk about what this means for Shedeur's future beyond just this week, because that's what really matters here. We're not just talking about one game against the Patriots. We're talking about the trajectory of a young quarterback's career and whether the Browns are actively sabotaging it through negligence, poor management, or something more calculated. Think about teams that could use a quarterback like Shedeur. The New York Giants are a disaster at the position. The Las Vegas Raiders need a future franchise guy. The Tennessee Titans could use an upgrade. Even contending teams like the Minnesota Vikings might want a high-upside backup who could develop into something special. There's a market for Shedeur, and the Browns know it. But here's where it gets tricky from Cleveland's perspective. If you trade Shedeur now, you're admitting you made a mistake. You're admitting you drafted a quarterback you never intended to develop. You're admitting that all the talk about building for the future was just noise. And in a league where perception matters almost as much as wins and losses, that's a really bad look for your front office. On the flip side, if the Browns keep Shedeur and he continues to rot on the bench, that's arguably even worse. You're wasting a year of his rookie contract, which is precious developmental time you can never get back. Rookie contracts are 4 years with a 5th-year option for first-rounders. Shedeur was a 5th-rounder, so he's on a 4-year deal. That means by the time his contract is up, he'll be 27 years old with almost no meaningful NFL experience. How does that help anyone? This is why Mary Kay's reporting is so important. She's not just breaking news about an injury. She's pulling back the curtain on organizational dysfunction. When she says the injury is legitimate, but also mentions trade rumors and lack of development plans in the same breath, she's telling you there's chaos behind the scenes. She's telling you the Browns don't actually have a coherent strategy for handling their quarterback situation. Let's also talk about what this does to Kevin Stefanski's credibility as a head coach. Stefanski won Coach of the Year in 2020, his first season with the Browns. That feels like a lifetime ago now. Since then, the team has been mediocre at best, cycling through quarterbacks and never establishing any consistency at the position. Baker Mayfield came and went. Deshaun Watson arrived with massive fanfare and has been a colossal disappointment both on and off the field. Now Stefanski is coaching for his job. Every decision he makes is being scrutinized. Every loss brings more speculation about his future. In that kind of environment, it's human nature to play it safe. Starting Gabriel, a 3rd-round pick who's shown he can run the offense without making catastrophic mistakes, is the safe play. Giving Shedeur a chance is risky, because if he struggles, that reflects poorly on Stefanski's evaluation and development skills. But here's the thing about playing it safe when you're 2-5. It doesn't work. You can't conservative your way out of a losing season. At some point, you have to take chances and trust your talent. And by refusing to give Shedeur any meaningful opportunities, Stefanski is essentially admitting he doesn't trust him. Whether that's fair or not is irrelevant. That's the message being sent. Now let me bring this full circle to why I believe Shedeur is getting a raw deal here and why we should be in his corner. This kid did everything right. He dominated in college. He won awards. He led his team to victories against the odds. He handled the pressure of being Deion Sanders' son with grace and maturity. He never complained when he fell in the draft. He showed up to Cleveland ready to work and learn. And what has he gotten in return? Injuries that seem to pop up at the most convenient times. A coaching staff that won't commit to his development. A front office that might be shopping him to other teams. Zero opportunities to prove himself in game situations. That's not how you treat a quarterback you believe in. That's how you treat a mistake you're trying to minimize. The back injury situation is just the latest example of this pattern. Whether it's real or exaggerated or complete propaganda, and honestly, it could be any of those things, the timing and context make it impossible to view in isolation. This is part of a larger story about organizational dysfunction and mismanagement. Here's what should happen moving forward. And this is my genuine advice to the Browns organization, even though I know they're not listening. Commit one way or the other. Either you believe in Shedeur or you don't. If you do, then play him. Give him real reps. Create a development timeline. Stop with the mysterious injuries and the roster gymnastics. Show the kid you're invested in his success. If you don't believe in him, then trade him to a team that does. Get whatever value you can before the deadline, and let him go somewhere that will actually use him. Don't waste his time and don't waste your own resources, pretending like he's part of your future when your actions clearly indicate otherwise. The worst thing you can do, and this is exactly what Cleveland is doing right now, is keep him in limbo. Don't play him, don't trade him, just let him exist in this purgatory where he can't develop and can't move on. That helps nobody. It doesn't help the Browns win games. It doesn't help Shedeur's career. It doesn't help the fans who want to see what they have in this kid. And for Shedeur himself, if I could give him advice, it would be this. Stay ready. Keep working. Don't let the politics and dysfunction affect your preparation. Your opportunity will come eventually, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else. When it does, you need to be ready to seize it and prove all the doubters wrong. The narrative around Shedeur has been so unfair from the start. People questioned his arm strength even though film showed he could make every throw. People said he only succeeded because of his dad, even though he won games in college that had nothing to do with Deion's coaching. People said he'd be a bust in the NFL before he'd even played a snap. Now he's getting killed for being injury-prone, even though these injuries only started happening after he got to Cleveland and stopped getting meaningful reps. It's like the universe is conspiring against this kid, and honestly, it pisses me off because he deserves better. So here's my final take on all of this. Mary Kay's report exposed something the Browns didn't want exposed. Whether the back injury is 100% legitimate or there's more to the story, the fact remains that Shedeur Sanders is being mishandled by this organization. The timing is too suspicious, the pattern is too clear, and the lack of opportunities is too glaring to ignore. The Browns are 2-5 with nothing to lose. This should be the time when you throw caution to the wind and see what your young talent can do. Instead, they're protecting their egos and covering their asses with convenient injury reports and safe roster moves. That's not how you build a winning culture. That's how you stay mediocre forever. Look, at the end of the day, we can argue about injuries and coaching decisions and front office politics all we want. But the bottom line is this. Shedeur Sanders is a talented quarterback who deserves a fair shot to prove himself at the NFL level. Whether he gets that shot in Cleveland or somewhere else remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure, this back injury drama is just another chapter in what's become a frustrating saga for everyone involved. If you want to stay updated on all things Shedeur Sanders and the Browns quarterback drama, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're going to be all over this story as it develops, especially with the trade deadline coming up. Let's see if Cleveland does right by this kid, or if this is just the beginning of an even bigger mess. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.